Hello and welcome to the 25th gathering of the Adventure Party on this, the 13th of September. I'm your party leader, Brad Ludwig. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and make sure you have all of your items on note cards while you are oh my god, this is the second week in a row. Totally fucked it. All right, here we go. Let's try that again. We ask that you peace tie your swords, holster your blasters, and make sure you have all of your items on note cards while you are gathered at the meeting table. Whew. We made it. All right.
We did it.
Those voices that you hear in the background are our guests from the web series on Geek and Sundry called LARPs the Series. And our guests are Julian, pronounce your last name for us, please.
I think I'd prefer to hear you pronounce it first.
Stamboulieh?
That's close. Stamboulieh.
Stamboulieh. Well,
Yeah.
I'm like yards away from it. Don't go easy on me, bud.
That was absolutely awful.
Julian Stamboulieh, Scott Humphrey, unless that's pronounced differently.
Humphrey.
All right.
Thumbs up.
And Benjamin Warner.
That's an easy one.
Yes, thankfully. I do some adjunct teaching one night a week, and I start things off the first class, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna probably say your name wrong, and I'm a horrible person for it. But let's try this anyway, and we'll get it right as the year goes on. So, same thing applies here. Thank you very much for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, very excited to be here.
And where are you guys physically located at this moment in time?
That's a pretty deep question, man. I don't know if I want to get into it. Like metaphysically? No. We're all coming to you from Montreal. Beautiful, sunny, or stormy Montreal in Quebec. I had to check the window, though, really quick to find out.
Okay, great. And the second in command here, the man who kind of made this meeting happen, and I'm very grateful for, is Glenn Bittner. And he is a movie reviewer on the YouTube show The B-Movie Bunker and the creator of the RPG Mistrunner. How are you, Glenn?
I am here to play LARPs and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
I love it.
Fair enough. And we have a cat that has joined the podcast, too. Excellent.
I feel like an evil villain, but like she just kind of jumped up here, and I don't know what to do about it. So
See,
I'm gonna let her.
Scott,
I'm gonna
what
let
you
her hang
need
out.
to do is you need to gently pet the head of the cat and just
Okay,
that
all right.
sinister subtone laugh.
Perfect. Oh, and she's gone. All right, perfect.
And for those of you who have been on the show before, we're going to do like we normally do. We roundtable our game review and do some game news, and then we jump into our interview with our guests for the evening. So, Glenn, we'll kick this off with you. What game do you have for us this week?
What do I have for us? I have New York 1901. We actually mentioned this one briefly last week. And this is from Blue Orange Games. And the designer, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, I believe it's pronounced Chenier Lasalle. You'll find a lot of French names when it comes to Blue Orange Games. This one is set early days of New York City, and you are actually you're competing to build skyscrapers in the city, and you actually have several different tiers of skyscrapers you can build as you enter different ages of buildings. And there are some of the legendary ones you can build as well, such as, I'm forgetting all of them now because I'm horrible.
American Telegraph and American
the
Telephone
Walrus,
and Telegraph
yes.
is on the web right now. If you're checking us out on YouTube, you can see that.
The legendary skyscrapers are Park Row, the Singer, the Metropolitan Life, and the majestic Woolworth. You can each player can build up to one of those. The game is 2 to 4 players and plays about 45 minutes. Is pretty accurate. Obviously, the first time will go a little bit longer. I played 2-player. I thought it was just so 2-player. I felt it worked much better when I played it with 3 and when I played it with 4. But it's got a pretty nifty mechanic. I mean, you're collecting plots of land throughout the city, and then you can later build on those plots. You assign workers to plots, and then you can build buildings on those plots. Basically trying to get points by building different skyscrapers. You can also demolish buildings. Of course, if you demolish something, you have to build something in its place. It has to be a higher tier skyscrapers. You can't go backwards and build crappier things, because why would you do that? So it's just one. It's a surprise coming out of Blue Orange, because they do not really do this. I believe this is their first big box board game. Most of their games are much smaller, like fit in your back pocket practically type games. Most of their games are smaller, quicker play games. So this was their first foray into a larger board game, and I like it so far. I've played it 3 times now. Okay. I've lost every time. So, which has been an ongoing thing lately with newer games, as I've been losing. Which the fact that I keep going back and wanting to play them again either means I am a masochist, or I like the game, or both.
Or that you're an adult, Glenn.
I don't know. I'm not ready to admit that yet.
All right, fair enough.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty. The rules are pretty darn easy. I mean, if you know how to pick pieces up and put them down on a board, you can play this game.
Okay, so I'll bite. What prompted them to get into a bigger box game? I'm assuming that there's a lot more financial risk involved for that. What prompted them to make that step up? Has there been any word on that?
Well, best I could tell from a little bit of talking I did at Toy Fair and then at one of the distributor open houses is they've over the last couple years they've branched out into more. I don't want to say adult, but more, I guess, adult-friendly type games, because kids can still play them. A lot of Blue Orange stuff in the earlier days, it was a lot of younger kid stuff. Big chunky wooden pieces. In that like 4 to 6, 4 to 8 range was their wheelhouse. And a couple of years ago, they started doing a lot more of that 8 and up, 10 and up type stuff. Like last week we talked about Proes. They did, I think it's Longhorns. And they've picked up some more, I guess, more standard, chunky, bite into it and have a meal type games. And I think this was just the next logical step for them from going into that.
Okay. Now, let me ask our guests, board gamers in the group.
Mm-hmm.
Scott?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Julian?
I in the next room over, I have a shelf of games. Sorry to interrupt. But yeah.
No,
oh, yeah.
fine. Okay. Excellent. And Julian, you said you're a board gamer?
Yeah, I mean, the cast and crew get together a lot to play board games.
Okay.
Scott and Elizabeth Neal and John Verrill are the ones that have the most massive collection of board games, so we usually hold them at their houses. But yeah, we're since going to Gen Con in Indianapolis about 2 years ago, we've really gotten into board games. I'm really, really enjoying it. I grew up as a video gamer, so
sure. Okay.
I'm kind of liking this whole tabletop.
Nice.
Yeah.
And not to leave you out, Benjamin, have you been a long-time board gamer or new to it?
I was known to play a little Mousetrap back in the day.
Mousetrap.
There you go.
I will say though that last year when we were at Gen Con, Julian and I discovered the card game Boss Monster, which I fell in love with. Julian actually bought the version last year at Gen Con. Then when we went this year, Julian came to me. He's like, "Hey Ben, Boss Monster 2 is here." So I made sure to buy a copy of Boss Monster 2, and I took actually a picture at the Boss Monster 2 booth with like their little like statue mascot, and like posted it on Facebook, and I'm like, like this, and like with a little tagline like guess what I'm buying. And my mom commented on it like, "You're bringing home that statue?" Like, no. The card game.
Mom,
parents just don't
my
get
Facebook. That's great. No, to go back to the game briefly, it sounds interesting. I guess it's kind of maybe a resource management type thing where presumably you have to. There's some sort of system whereby you can construct taller and taller skyscrapers. 2 things that I want to throw out there, if people don't mind.
No,
one, I sincerely hope you can demolish other people's buildings.
You
I
cannot.
mean, damn it. Okay, I mean, I guess it'd be against the spirit of the game, because that's not very nice. But it would be pretty cool. You know what I mean? If you had like a one-play only card that was just like, I'm so sorry, but I'm knocking it down. Yeah, that'd be great.
Maybe that's
also-
room for an expansion.
That would.
Yeah.
We're all game designers here. I say we go inside. New York, 1902, the demolishing. It's gonna be great. I mean, Blue Orange, get them on the line. No, but what you were saying about Blue Orange games being sort of directed at 4 to 6 year olds, I also think it's interesting the idea that as the children that grew up on those games are growing up, so is the company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're making games for the people who would have grown up playing their games. There's not a lot of games out there or companies out there that do that and kind of follow the demographic as it goes. But I think that might be an interesting theory.
I think it's like the first taste is free, and then you have to continue to pay.
There you go.
See, there you go. Get them hooked while they're young.
Exactly. That doesn't sound healthy, actually. Hang on. Let's talk about that.
You can say the same thing about LARPs this series.
Boom. There we go. All right. Well, no, that sounds like a really cool game. And what I know we've been talking about in the past that a lot of the box games at that level are about $50 to $60. Where does this one sit at approximately?
It sits around 50.
Okay.
I've seen it lower. I've also seen it upwards of 60 and 70.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, which is a little bizarre because it's not one that's really been hard to get. So.
Okay.
At least not that I've seen so far.
And looking at this, like you said earlier, 45 minutes of gameplay, probably not the first time you play, but standard game time is about 45 minutes, and 2 to 4 players. So that, that sounds like a good game night sort of a thing where you can play a number of different games in the course of the evening, and it's not like the Game of Thrones that's always my comparison after getting sucked into that 8-hour disaster.
I grew up playing Diplomacy.
Yikes. Yikes or doodle.
And are you still friends with any of those people you played with?
I had this one friend who I would play with we'd always get together, we'd play, and every single time he always double-crossed me. And therefore, I always went up to him and said, this time they won't suspect us working together because you double-crossed me last time, so let's work together. He's like, great, and then he double-crossed me, and it happened like 4 times in a row.
This is how Julian earned his
The story is I suck at board games.
Did you go to school with me? Because that's what I used to, there was a guy who finally, when I did it the third time, when I did hey, want to team up on France? He said sure. And then he attacked France, and I attacked him. And at the third time, he flipped the board and stormed out of the room, and I never saw him again.
Thanks.
Oh,
And
boy.
he went on to become president of the United States.
Little known historical fact. Yes, Glenn used to play board games with Barack Obama.
And he was a sore loser.
And he was not happy when he lost.
He's definitely matured a bit.
All right. Well, thank you, Glenn. We're going to move into the news, and this really caught my attention. I'm gonna read the title here, and we'll let this soak in for just a second. Skirmisher Publishing releases Insults and Injuries, a Pathfinder sourcebook for medical maladies. Now,
It
I
sounds
had
like
never-
the old netbooks that used to be available on like BBS boards for D&D.
I never thought of diseases needing a source book. Looking at this, and this is a drive-through RPG, has got the watermarked PDF for $12.99. Let me give you a rundown on this, and we'll talk about whether or not, if you were running a game, if you would shell that kind of money out for a source book of that nature. This was written by a practicing medical doctor, and Insults and Injuries presents real-world illnesses in Pathfinder game terms. Why afflict characters with filth fever when you can give them rabies, the black plague, or the flu? Because that's what a really
Valid
nice
question.
GM does. Within this source book, you will find dozens of sicknesses that your players already know and fear and love in a format that allows them to be easily and realistically brought into your games. You will also find expanded rules for more effective non-magical healing, which I could see that definitely having use in a game. This detailed book is divided into an introduction, 14 chapters, and 6 appendices, and includes rules for more than 50 diseases and disorders, their game effects, and how they can be treated by both mundane and magical means. A chapter on the effects of alcohol, drugs, and poison. There's a chapter on mental illnesses and their game effects. Rules for adjudicating surgical procedures. 4 new prestige classes dedicated to non-magical healing. The alienist, the apothecary, the surgeon, spelled with a CH, and physician. Interesting. Special rules on the effects of illnesses upon non-humans like drow, dwarves, elves, giants, goblins, and orcs. New spells, equipments, and feats. With this book, you and your players will never look at diseases the same way again. All right. Now that we've gone through that story, let's throw this around the room. Now, if you were running a LARP or a tabletop game, how apt would you be to play a game with where a disease was in play?
I'd love to jump in on this one.
Okay.
But just because I one of the things that you mentioned was the new prestige classes.
Yeah.
I love the idea of within any system, someone being able to role play whatever they want. You know what I mean? Like if I want to play someone who brews beer in their basement, I should be able to do that within any system that I want, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, they're maybe not going to be great at combat, so we'd have to talk about that. But you know, but the idea that someone could play a surgeon within the context of a Pathfinder party is really interesting. That said, well, I mean, obviously, disease has a place within any world, any universe, and I think the idea of like alcohol and I like the idea of alcohol and drugs and the negative consequences thereof affecting your character. You know, oh, we party really hardy. Okay, well, you're not going to be super effective tomorrow morning. Like that kind of thing. That's fun to me. But otherwise, it just strikes me as like let's use our imaginations a little bit, right? You know, if I get afflicted with a mysterious disease that makes me dance uncontrollably, right? Like, I think that's more interesting than like, you have the flu, go lie down for a couple days.
Go see the surgeon.
That's me. Yeah. Go talk to the doctor. That's my opinion. Anyway.
I guess personally, I'm somewhat surprised that this hasn't come sooner.
Okay.
I mean, I'm new to Dungeons and Dragons. I played Neverwinter Nights on PC, which is a module of, I think, right, of Dungeons and Dragons, and I'm surprised that didn't exist earlier. It seems like, I mean, they have like blindness and deafness and stuff like that, which are, I mean, those are not diseases, but I mean, real life afflictions. So I'm surprised that this is only coming out now.
I think it's only coming out as a viable thing.
Oh, I see.
Back in the earlier days of the internet, back in my day. He's stealing Brad's thing. When I used to haunt, when you didn't have normal internet like we have now, and you would just, log on to, alt.dnd. Different BBS bulletin board services and stuff like that. There were the netbooks, and there was like the netbook of poisons, the netbook of illnesses, the netbook of. There was one for sex. There were netbooks that people made for everything, and a lot of it was just way too much stuff. I didn't need, 150-page thing on, sex in D&D. I was in college.
You've got this, Glenn. You got this. You know what I'm saying?
I don't need a manual for this.
Well, the thing is if there was something in there that I didn't already know about, I'm not going to be acting this out with the four guys I played D&D with. You know, I mean, some people might like that, but the four guys I played with and myself, none of us swung that way. I don't know if any of them do now. It's been a while, but even if they did, I don't know how comfortable I'd feel. You know, basically role playing out, you know, fetish porn in the study lounge.
Yeah.
But so a lot of these existed in one form or another. I think this person actually just took it a step further, and it might be a bit more factual, seeing as he is a doctor.
Yeah.
Or at least plays
That's
one
the
on
thing
drive-through RPG.
Sure. And that's the kind of the thing that intrigued me on this story is, one, you know, that particular time period, hygiene didn't really exist. You know, people washing their hands didn't happen all that often, and, you know, whatever. But illness was definitely a way of life, and I think that as a gamer, that level of reality or realism is not necessarily the first thing you think about in playing a fantasy campaign, and that's why I thought that was such a gear shift. I mean, it makes sense in context, and it makes sense if you want to play out more of the historical aspects and actually dig maybe a little bit deeper into, you know, you say that your character has a mental illness of some sort. Maybe they're bipolar, maybe they're schizophrenic. Of course, you know, at that time they didn't necessarily have those names for it, but how would you play something like that if you were going to have that be a part of your character? So I think that if you're just a group of people that loves to hack and slash, and that's, you know, hack slash loot, and that's your idea of fun, this type of level of realism might weigh down a campaign. So as a GM, you probably want to discuss with your group of, hey, I've got this idea. I'd like to bring syphilis into the game, or something else. You know, what you'd want to have.
I've got this idea. Our campaign needs more syphilis.
If you wanted to bring syphilis into the game, you would probably have to consult Glenn's sex manual first. I think.
That's true. That's a good point, actually.
Step one.
I'm sorry I haven't been able to contribute to this conversation where I'm just stuck on really wanting to produce a web series about Scott Humphrey becoming afflicted with a disease that makes him dance all day.
I would watch that.
I'd
be a one viewer. I would love it.
No, I could see the pitch now. It's Scrubs, but in medieval times. All right, let's go.
Oh, there's there's a
Call
joke
it
in there.
tunics.
Yeah, there. Yes, thank you. Call it tunics. There you go. I love it.
Nice.
Fine.
Great.
But yeah, I guess something you said. I guess I didn't think of. It's interesting to think that that you bring in these definitions of kind of like medical afflictions and stuff like that they wouldn't necessarily have any scientific proof about, because, you know, back then if there's something they don't know, there's like a mythology that's built around it, and it's kind of cool to have afflictions with a mythology based around it and kind of like a lot of uncertainties and some like magical elements to it. Sure. I guess for me, what I find interesting about it, whether or not I implement it into a system or not, is I love the idea of turning real life things into statistics. How do you translate something that's a real life thing into something that already has rules, stats, and all that kind of stuff attributed to it? And anyway, like right now I'm playing Legend of Grimrock, which is a game I got off of Steam.
Okay.
And when you fall, you break your leg, and how does that affect your characters? And, you know, like you get damage on your arm, how does that affect your characters? It's always interesting to see how those kind of things, real life situations, get translated stats. That's why I would be interested in reading through that book. I mean, I'm interested to see how syphilis affects my character.
Sure. And I gotta say that the first time I ever really thought about medical procedures in that moment in time during the medieval ages is what is the movie with oh my god, of course now my brain is going to completely turn off. What is it? Knight's Tale? A Knight's Tale?
That's a movie, yeah.
No, where
With Heath Ledger's in it, yeah.
yes, Heath Ledger. Thank you. And his
Okay, yeah,
character is
Oh, that's the
jousting,
jousting one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's
And
a great movie.
and he jousts. Yeah, it's a wonderful movie. If
And
you
Wash
can
is
get-
one of his buddies.
Yeah. Yes. And actually, the Vision is Chaucer, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the where he's jousting and he dislocates his shoulder, and they have a box that they specifically use to grab a hold of the elbow and actually pull. You know, I never really thought about. Of course, people dislocated their shoulders and stuff, but how did you fix that? And just that, even though it was in a Hollywood film, still, maybe it's not anything you really thought about. So if this is, if this is something you wanted to explore in a game setting, then this book I could see that there would be a definite application to it if you want to bring that level of realism to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, I think we're going to move on to the Galactic Gaming News with Ryan Murphy, and he's a contributor to Galactic Netcasts, and he covers more of the digital beat of gaming, and he has another update for us. So, take it away, Ryan. All right, thanks for that, Ryan. We're going to move on to the Kickstarter Spotlight, and last week we talked about the game Omnibus, which... to lay this out, it is a bare bones game that it's in the PS1 style of physics, and you drive a bus and you destroy a town with the bus. It is it's a PS.
So there's your New York 1902.
There you go.
Yes! The busting!
And if you guys are looking in the document, you can click the link to this game. We spoke with a web blogger who specializes in board games and stuff like that, and we shared the link with her, and she bought it. I mean, like that. Because it is just so ridiculously simple, and to me it's even more fun than Goat Simulator. And I don't know if you guys have seen Goat Simulator on Steam or if you've had a chance to play it, but it is stupid, ridiculous fun, and this is what I could see happening here, is you just play it for hours, running into things, getting cash, and just having a ball. It's next to nothing to get on board. For $5, you can get a copy of this game.
I'm watching a video of it right now on their site, and I would describe this as Carmageddon meets Monopoly.
There it is.
Almost.
Very nice.
Yes. Now,
Wow.
their goal was $5,000, and they met the goal. They're at $7,006 with 6 days to go. So, good for them. They made it, and all sorts of different types of buses. You can read around in a double length bus. So you have like a front end and a back end that move in kind of in tandem, or they work together. They've got, I believe that there's a double decker, like an English bus. Just ridiculous fun. The Ultra Bus is what that's called. That's the two buses in one sort of a thing, with the accordion center holding them together. That type of bus, I've seen it. It's shifty. I don't trust that accordion center. I really don't. But like I said,
Is there an amphibus?
sadly, not at this time. But maybe that's an update that they could do, or the next Kickstarter that they do. But they met their goal with 241 backers, 6 days to go, and that's really cool. So there's still time for you to spend $5 and get mindless fun with a bit of physics thrown in it. So, but enough about last week's Omnibus. Glenn, tell us about this week's.
All right, listen up, you mooks. I got here for you. I got Private Die, a noir dice game. It's actually a relaunch. So with this game, it is a faster play dice game for 2 to 6 players. You are going to be questioning witnesses, and it's kind of a push your luck type game. We're going to roll dice to get clues from witnesses, and you can keep pushing them as long as you want, but if you push them too far, they'll end up feeding you bad information, and you have to give some of your clues back. The goal is you're trying to collect enough clues. If you get 15 or more at the end of a round, you solve the case and win.
That's cool.
Wow.
So it's just, I mean, I'm a huge film noir fan.
Yeah.
So
Yay.
this jumped out at me right away. I mean, of course, after the one I originally picked was canceled, that is.
Well, that's a shame. Yeah, looking at this, it's $19 to get on board, and that gets you a copy of the game, Private Die, and one Kickstarter limited detective, so a special card that you will get for being a backer on Kickstarter. Now, this is 2 to 6 players, and it's for 8 and up, which is really cool. And it looks like a typical game is somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes, which that's a hell of a thing.
Fast.
That's awesome.
That's super short, yeah.
Yeah. Especially if you're getting the 8 and up crowd there. There's a certain window where that attention span is, 5 to 15 can be doable for sure. But an hour or more, that might be a little too much for the younger end of the spectrum there. But that's really, really cool. The artwork on this is, I keep talking about this, and our YouTube listeners or watchers are going to be like, what is he talking about? I'm going to do the screen share here and present to everyone so that they can see the artwork for this is wonderful. It's, of course, the cards are all in black and white. And, there's 7 detective cards. There's the Kickstarter limited card, which almost looks like Humphrey Bogart a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
And there's 18 witness cards. There's 5 different case cards, 45 clue tokens, and 31 ChessX dice. So they are working with ChessX to handle their dice needs there for the game. That is really wonderful, and we'll have a link in the show notes where you can actually see the opening video for this. Definitely is film noir styled and talks about what the game's about. And then down towards the bottom of the page on Kickstarter, it gives you a little bit of the actual gameplay. So their goal was 3,000.
Whoa.
That's what I said. And they have more than doubled it. They are currently sitting at 6,549 with 24 days to go.
Whoa.
So I would be interested to know, because these things run typically for about 30 days. So I would be interested to know at what point they just blew right by their 3,000. This game looks to be really, really popular, and I would definitely get on board. I think I'm going to buy this game.
For $19, why not? I mean, that's duck soup.
Yeah, $19. That's a steal, especially for all the dice and all the plastic gear alone that you get with this is amazing. And all that stuff can be reused. All of those the chits that they had with it, all that can be reused for another game. So even if you are working on your own game to put together, to test, and to put on Kickstarter yourself, I mean, if you need chits, if you were to get this game, you could have extra chits and dice to test your game if that's what they require. Have we heard of Mystic Ape before, Glenn?
I think I have heard of them before. I don't know what else they've done. Let me think here, because Private Die, I think, as I said, it's a relaunch.
Okay.
No, I don't know their other games. They've also done The End Is Nigh, Space Gypsies, and Rise of the Aeronauts.
Okay.
Their other games are, well, The End Is Nigh was shorter play, but Space Gypsies was like a 2-hour
Yeah.
plus game.
Yeah, this is a bit of a shift, which is a good thing as well. Definitely. Okay, so
I'm looking at the perks on the side, and it says includes a banana toast.
which
For a good 5 minutes, I had no idea what that was, but then I see that at the top. Okay, my mind went wild.
well, you know, if you're presented with banana toast, I would too.
Well, I find it. I think the aesthetic of it is really cool in the sense that the board game revolution that we've had in the last 5 to 10 years. Obviously, there's a lot of medieval fantasy, cyberpunk, steampunk, near future, post-apocalyptic. Right? There's like the classic television film tropes that get explored in board games, which is totally cool, and I love it. Retro gaming is a thing, obviously, but even in video games, film noir, what have we had? Like, we've had LA Noire.
Yep.
Grim Fandango, a long time ago.
Yeah.
Kind of. But, like, that's it. You know what I mean? And I can't think of a board game that explores that universe, and it's so rich. Like, the black and white with the stereotyped characters and the way people interact with each other. It's just so wonderful and rich. And it could be really cool for a betrayal-style game as well. I think that'd be really fun. So, anyway... Great to see the.
It's what makes the. If you guys aren't familiar with the game Fiasco, it's what makes Fiasco a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
Go look that up again.
Okay. And it looks like their delivery date is May of next year. So there is going to be a little bit of a wait on this, but.
And I don't know if you mentioned it, Brett. They funded it in 9 hours.
Wow.
So
Beautiful.
yeah, that's.
So what you're saying
amazing.
is LARPs should have been a film noir.
Yes. That's what we should have done, definitely.
Boy.
And,
Season 3, I've got an idea.
Oh, I love it.
after Tunics, then you're going to do a noir-based.
Suits and fedoras, baby. Suits and fedoras. It's going to be great.
It looks like their stretch goals, good lord, they've only got 3 left. 7,000, 8,000, and 9,000.
Wow.
I have a feeling that they're probably going to be creating more stretch goals at the pace that they're running right now. Wow, that's really cool. It's nice to see that kind of reaction to a game. It gets funded in 9 hours. That's ridiculous. The only other game that I can think of that was like that was...
The Kittens one.
Yeah, Exploding Kittens.
Perfect. That's all you need to tell me. Like a title like that, no problem.
Exploding Kittens, take my money.
Here you go.
And that's, I don't know if you've had a chance to play Exploding Kittens, but oh, good lord. It is hilarious. It is hilarious. But enough of Exploding Kittens.
Is the game as funny as it is in real life?
Exploding Kittens?
Oh boy.
Oh, absolutely. It is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Private Die, a noir dice game, which is a relaunch from Mystic Ape Games. Like we said, $19 gets you on board with something that has broad-based appeal and can include kids 8 and up. So if you're looking for a short die and card-based game, this definitely looks like the one to get. So thanks for bringing that to our attention.
You bet. It's the stuff dreams are made of.
I bet he's been thinking all Google Hangouts so far. How do I close this?
Love it. I love it.
My kind of guy.
All right. Now we are going to discuss LARPs the series. And this is really interesting because Glenn and I did a bit of LARPing, and it was the Mind's Eye Theater White Wolf LARPing is what we ended up doing. We did a little bit of Blackmore, which was... I'm sorry, Glenn, did you do a bit of Blackmore?
No, I did not.
You didn't? Okay. I got to attend a couple of Blackmore fantasy setting LARPs, and it's really interesting in that what you guys are doing here, and we'll get to. I'm going to turn this over to you in a second, but LARPing is such an interesting social dynamic, and it looks like your show really explores a lot of that. There's a lot of, making friends through the game, and there's a bit of acting involved in a LARP for those who have never LARPed before. But it can be really kind of low-key. It can be really rigidly outlined, so it really depends on who's running it. So what I want to do is turn it over to you guys and talk about LARPs and talk about how the series came to be, and then we've got some other questions for you too. So who wants to start? How did you guys decide to make LARPs the series?
Well, let me jump in real quick. And I think actually probably Julian would be the best one to talk about how the show came to be, because Julian was the one who originally conceived of the show. But I'll just say for my part, as the producer of a show about people who LARP, having never LARPed myself prior to producing the first season of the show, the show's writer, John Verrill, our friend who created the show with Julian, He's explained to me many times, and I've come to learn how true this is, that there are so many different types of LARPs. And I mean, even we were talking earlier about the role-playing game that involves diseases, it brings up an interesting question that we actually asked on our social media, I believe today or yesterday, about how much people want to be experiencing combat while LARPing.
Sure.
And the reason I bring that up is because you ask about different types of LARPs, and like I'm saying, there are so many different types of LARPs. I find, as the producer of this show, so many times over the last couple of years when I've said to people, yeah, I produced this show, it's called LARPs, and maybe they don't know what that means, I find myself having to use an example, and so I admit I do say to them, like, when people dress up in like medieval fantasy costumes and you see them kind of fighting with foam swords and shields and stuff. And so then that kind of clicks with people and they say, oh yeah, right, that's what LARPing is. But then I feel this need to kind of re-explain it and say, but that's not really what LARPing is. LARPing isn't just combat. LARPing stands for live action role playing. So it has to do a lot more with the interaction that people are having as they're playing these characters, and I think that's really all I wanted to say. But I think that'll lead into very well Julian kind of talking about why he originally conceived the show in the first place. That's all I got.
Okay. All right, Julian, let's hear from you.
Okay. Well, so I created the concept for the show probably about 9 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. And I had written some initial scripts, and then realized I'm not a script writer. And then I gave up, and I let it sit on my shelf for 9 years. And during that time, or I think at the time I had created the show, I've never LARPed before, but I liked the idea of LARPing as a mechanic to talk about kind of how an imaginary world, a world where you feel comfortable to explore any part of yourself, how that can affect your reality, and what are the connections between the two. So that's why I was drawn to the idea of LARPing for this show. The two original characters that were created were actually Will and Brittany, and it was that relationship that kind of spawned the rest of the show. Eventually, I met up with John Verrill, who is the writer of the show. He also plays Evan in the show, the GM. And I asked him, he had been pushing me for a long time to write the show. He is a writer. He's also a LARPer. He's been GMing LARPs for about 15 years, or something like that. And so I said, well, that's an absolutely perfect match. So I passed it off to him. We went through the story again. We recreated the story arcs. We added a fifth character that I had not created on my own, which was Shane, played by Elizabeth Neal. And and that's it. And off we went. We got Benjamin Warner involved as the producer of the show because he and I are actually the owners of Bean Duck Productions, which is the production company that through which we produced the show. There you go. And then we cast some people, like this guy here, and the rest is history.
All right, I want to before we go on, Scott, I wanted to ask you a question.
Sure, man.
He's good. He's good at those. He's really good at those.
Yeah.
No pressure, Scott.
Thanks, Ben.
If you fuck up, you're off the show.
Okie dokie.
I feel like I need to give you a hug now, Scott.
Digital hugs will be accepted as a legitimate form of currency, yes.
Excellent.
Approximately $5. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
What is it like? Now, when you are LARPing, it is, and I guess I want to ask this as sort of my working into my final question for you, Scott, is the difference between LARPing, improv, and acting. All of them have different mechanics, different rules. And I guess I'll coach this into the question that I had as well. How difficult is it to act as a LARPer, which is kind of improvisational, in its feel, but you're doing something that's scripted? How was that? Is that a mechanic you don't even need to think about, or do you portray that?
Yeah, so I want to just, before I answer the question, I just want to comment on the fact that I think it's a really interesting one, and that I want to add some layers of complexity to it, because it's not already complex enough. Not only am I an actor playing a LARPer on the show, but I have some improv background, and I have played in some social LARPs before that used a Mind's Eye Theater derived system from a White Wolf game, which was really cool. But also, I'm playing the only character on the show whose in-game character is not substantially different from his real persona. So in a way, I'm not the right person to ask. But in another way, I think it's another layer of kind of complexity to this whole thing. You know what I mean? At any rate, to get back to your question, so acting, improv, and LARPing. So when I first encountered LARPing as a hobby and as something awesome to do, like as an event to attend, you know what I mean? I kind of that was my instinctual reaction to the person who was running the game, who was John Verrill, actually, the writer and Evan on the show. I told him, oh my God, this is just long form improv. We're doing, instead of being given a prompt for a scene that will last approximately 5 minutes, so if it doesn't work out, it's okay, you can go home and not, drink yourself to sleep or whatever. The session lasts 4 hours through, or a weekend, right?
Sure.
Or longer. That kind of long form session, who is my character? How will it drive me in the situations that I kind of work with? So acting obviously is not improvised to a certain extent, right? Like, I know what I'm going to say before I say it. Shh, don't tell anyone, it's a secret. But there is kind of, I think within LARPing and improv and acting, what kind of connects all three of them is this desire to find a truthful moment between you and the person you're working with or performing opposite or playing opposite, depending on what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, your character desires something, so does theirs, and maybe that's going to throw you into a conflict, which will end up with you beating each other up, or maybe it will end up in a scene where you have like a really meaningful back and forth or something. But kind of imbuing it with that sense of truth is what makes the actor's job so complicated, but it's also what makes the LARPing so much fun. Yeah. Right? It's the same kind of action. I hope I answered your question.
No, and that makes perfect sense to me. The way you described it.
You can stay for now, Humphrey.
For now. Thank you, Mr. Warner.
No,
May I have
and I'm going to go from my own personal experience in LARPing. Any character that I did was a portion of myself, just like peeling off a piece of me and focusing on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then expanding upon that and filling out that particular whatever that character's whatever is going to be. And in those moments where you have those scenes with people, forgetting that you know these people on a social basis and you're not working off a script and still having a meaningful conversation within the context of the game and accomplishing something was kind of weird because, I mean, I have zero acting background. Although I have somebody saying to me that, oh, you should try to act. You used to LARP. And I'm like, dude, that's completely different. And no,
not the same thing.
not even in the same league. I could see LARPing being like an introductory drug to acting, but there's no way that you know what I'm saying. It's the gateway. I could see you getting interested in acting, but they're completely different. And I would say that it would be maybe closer to improv than it would be actual acting.
Mm-hmm. There are some improv troupes that instead of doing the sort of traditional, whose line is it anyway type games, will do evenings of long-form improv. So I've seen improv troupes who are working really well together, but what they'll do is they'll get a suggestion for something at the top of the show, maybe a conflict or a location, and they'll build their one story for the night, which is the length of a feature film, around that. They'll have an intermission in the middle, but and that's kind of impressive, and that strikes me like similar to LARPing, right? There's an outside voice or body, the GM or group of people, who kind of are directing the action, but to a certain extent, what the players decide to do in the moment, what they feel is right for their characters, is kind of what drives the story forward.
Yeah, and as being somebody who runs the game, you have zero control. It's like you've got a story idea, but it's like, here's the loose plan, and I'm going to throw this your way, and you run with it, and I'll work on my end, which is completely different from acting. Like in improv, you have a set goal. As I understand it, you need to arrive at a place, but that's already been agreed upon, and you as characters need to work together to get to that place, whereas LARPing is probably very reverse of that, I would say.
Can be anything, really.
Yeah, it really can. Okay, well, now that we've gotten past the sort of metaphysical question, let's move into some other stuff here. How much, we've touched on this a little bit, but of the cast and crew, how many do you know of who are actual LARPers or gamers? And by gamers, let's qualify that with tabletop, and then we'll work to board games.
Well, as I had said earlier, I had never LARPed prior to producing the show. Before we went into principal photography on season 1, John Verrill actually ran a one afternoon LARP with the cast and crew, just to kind of get us into the right frame of mind, I suppose you could say. And that was really, really fun. After we finished producing the second season of the show, John Verrill, Jonathan Silver, who plays Arthur, and myself were all invited by a group in Ontario called Underworld LARP, who are fantastic, to go attend one of their international events, their first international event, actually, I believe. So I wouldn't necessarily say I am a LARPer, because I don't feel I have yet earned that stripe, but I have LARPed before. That being said, a bunch of us play D&D, which is fantastic, and as we've said, we also play tabletop games together periodically. But I think it's quite interesting. I mean, Scott did have a little bit of LARPing experience before the show, but definitely the one out of all of us who had by far and beyond the most LARPing experience was John Verrill, who had been LARPing and GMing for many years. But you said we'll start from tabletop games and bring it back, but I think all of us you could definitely say are gamers to some extent, and that's, for me, that's at least how I connected emotionally to the show while we were making it, because I mean Julian and I I lost a good year of my life, Julian probably 2 or 3, to World of Warcraft.
Sure. Yeah.
As you do.
Well, what's funny is actually, yes, like Ben says, we all have somewhat of a gaming background, whether it be on tabletop, LARPing, or video gaming. Probably the one who has the least experience, and it has been the most fun to introduce her to the world of geek culture, is actually Charlotte Rogers, who plays Brittany in the show. She, unless you consider Sunday Night Football gaming, in which case she's the biggest gamer of us all.
Yes.
But we coaxed
Charlotte
her.
is the most fun person to play D&D with in the world.
Yeah, we coaxed her into playing D&D with us, and she's embracing it wholeheartedly. She sits there looking through all of her spells. She absolutely loves it. And I think geek culture is incredibly addicting once you get started in it. Once you start getting into gaming of any form, it's incredibly addicting. It's a lot of fun, and it's fun to watch someone experiencing that kind of almost for the first time, at this depth.
Yeah. For example, my girlfriend has gamed a little bit, but now that she's living with me, and we had a regular Monday night gaming group that we were going to, seeing some of this through her eyes, getting the level of immersion that she was now getting with gaming has been one of those things. It's like, oh, I bet you I was like that too, and just to see that from a different perspective. Yeah, it's really, if you're a real gamer of any type, doesn't matter if you're LARP or computer games or console games or whatever, seeing that sort of kid at Christmas, sort of when that light goes on and it's like it's connected and it's like, oh God, I love this, and you just see that for the first time through them experiencing that moment that you did so long ago. It just
Nintendo 64!
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, I just got it. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. No, but there is something. There is something to be said for. I think everybody wants to experience a fantasy. You know what I mean? Like, why would we consume media otherwise?
Yeah.
Like, what is storytelling otherwise? You know what I mean? So I think that role-playing games and LARPing, as an extension of that, are very deliberately down that path of let's really dive into and live out those fantasies, and you can create your own, as opposed to enjoy this fantasy that I've created for you. It's a video game, whatever. You know what I mean? You have to play so and you have to do such and such. And I also really enjoy watching people, whether they're first timers or veterans, kind of enjoying that, because it's something that we all truly want, I think, really.
Yeah, and I think as a game, if you were running a game and you have a veteran join the group or something like that, and you actually hook them in and get them excited, that's even more of a compliment that, yeah, okay, I've really got this put together. So yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
So YouTube has given many more people access to creating and posting their own creations. I mean, our show is initially done through YouTube just so we can get everybody on board with Google Hangouts, and then we pull the audio and then make it an audio podcast. Would you say that YouTube as a whole has been a really good thing and let's qualify this, for people that want to make shows or other things for people to watch, and then let's kind of switch that around, and for consumers, for people to actually to view that material when it's completed?
I mean, I think it's the web in general is really great for aspiring filmmakers. If we didn't have YouTube, then we would not have, we wouldn't. First off, we wouldn't have been able to make the show. We wouldn't have gotten seen afterwards and gotten seen by Geek and Sundry and getting a bigger fan base. But I think it's tricky because YouTube and other platforms offer a free space for filmmakers to showcase their stuff. It cuts out the middleman of production of what's it called, like channel. What do you call that?
Studios.
Studios. That's the one.
Sure.
And gives you immediate access to a huge audience. But what's kind of tricky is at the same time is you're competing against, as the cat jumps up next to Scott Humphrey, cat videos, right? So it's like it's tricky because there are platforms that are more so filmmaker friendly, and you think that would be, but at the same time you're losing the eyes and the random links of people watching cat videos that happen to get linked to LARPs episode 0. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So it's tricky because it's, on the one hand it's great, on the other hand you really have to struggle to kind of, showcase yourself outside all of the rest of the stuff on YouTube.
Sure.
Having that sort of middleman, as Julian put it, the studio system that we've had for so many years in film and then television, allows a very small group of people to come up with very specific ideas that then get shown to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a funnel. Whereas whatever the opposite of a funnel is kind of what is the opposite?
A megaphone.
When you pour something,
that?
but it goes everywhere. I don't know.
Megaphone.
A megaphone. It's a megaphone.
It's just a funnel turned around. But anyway.
Yeah, that's pretty much. It gets wider. Anyway, the idea that YouTube and other video sharing platforms kind of allow people to. I mean, I always liken things like Twitter to standing in a large, crowded room and shouting at the top of your lungs. Do you know what I mean?
It's my favorite thing to do.
That's it. Well, there you go. Glenn knows what's going on.
Glenn, you got YouTube.
And so it's much easier to be lost in the commotion because there isn't that gate that is telling people you should watch this if you would like this sort of thing.
Mm.
So it's on the producers, like on the content providers' shoulders, to know who they're trying to target and to figure out how to reach those people with their content. I think YouTube's done incredible things for filmmakers in the last 10 years. 10 years? When did YouTube start? History lesson, somebody? 2004? Looking it up.
1480? I don't know.
But I will say,
Like pre-Gutenberg, guys. Pre-Gutenberg.
Back in my day, we had the Edison Electric Telegraph, and I got nothing. And the Twitters.
it's because of what Scott's saying that, like, that's what ends up making. I think it's making more well-rounded filmmakers because it's then on the filmmaker's shoulders and everyone in their immediate circle to then publicize it, to take care of all kinds of post-production, production, pre-production, because there's smaller budgets for web, and you have a small team shouldering all the things that these broadcasters will be doing for you, and all of a sudden everything's on you. But in the end, I think we end up benefiting a lot from it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's interesting. I totally agree with Julian and Scott. I think my views on, I guess, if your question simply put is like, for filmmakers, is YouTube a good thing? And I was reading your question notes before when you sent them to us before we got on the show here, and I believe you used the word like net. Like, is it net? I'm sure there are positives and negatives, but is it net good? And I believe it is net good. Yes, I guess the one like tricky thing that I think comes into play when it's like, hey, here is this thing called YouTube. Anyone can just go put a video on, and it can be elaborately thought out, written, produced, high production value show. LARPs the series, go check it out. Or it could be like, your cat flipping around in the washing machine. But it doesn't matter. You can put whatever video you want up there. I guess what I'm trying to get at is the one danger I feel that there is. They're not danger. I mean, like, danger. People use that word. It's like nobody's going to die. It's okay. Like, the tricky thing is, I'll use the analogy that Scott was using. You know, you have the TV, the studio system with television networks, and it's like a very small group of people deciding what content is going to get on there for the entire world at large to see. And what's great about YouTube and other similar platforms is that there are a large number of projects that deserve to get made and should be made that don't get onto TV or don't get released in cinemas.
Sure.
But, and I hope this comment isn't too controversial or whatever, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is there are a lot of projects that shouldn't get made. And YouTube allows those projects to get made. And I'm not using any examples, I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying, like, sometimes you need to look outside yourself and say, like, is what I'm doing going to be of any value? And you know what? Funnily enough, I'll say that, and the caveat to what I'm saying is that, like, cat videos may be serving a very good purpose. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
I'm not saying that cat videos are a bad thing, but I mean, like, there are many examples of things that maybe, like, just shouldn't be made because, here, you know what? I'll finish off by saying this, because there's a difference between being an amateur and being a professional. And, like, we are, you know, like, Scott is a professional actor, and he's trying, you know, to make yeah, he is. From all the joking I do and all the bullshit I give Scott, I actually have a lot of respect for him, and I believe he's a very talented performer. You know, so Scott is a professional actor, and he's trying to make a living for himself doing this kind of work, and it's like, I feel like sometimes there are examples of projects out there on the internet, on free platforms, that are really more so examples of amateurs, but then you have people who are professionals really trying to make a name for themselves, and I think there needs to be a distinction between those two things, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Okay. No, that makes sense. We brought up Geek and Sundry here, and with YouTube being so widely known and an interesting format to get yourself noticed, and as we mentioned in the previous question, it's hard to pull yourself away from the pack, and you know, you have to find that niche, but you also have to have a little bit of quote-unquote magic to, you know, have yourself be seen and to be known and to get that following. So that said, when Geek and Sundry called you up and said, hey, we like what you're doing, we'd love to have you partner with us.
Let's just say it was a good thing I was wearing my diaper that day.
I was going to say, what? Tell us about that moment, because I would love to, like, whichever of you that got the call or the first one here that heard that, what was your reaction?
Well, I will start by saying I remember. So we launched initially. I'm going to get to your answer the long way.
Oh, that's fine.
We launched originally on our own, I believe, in February, beginning of March.
Yeah.
Around there. I remember when we had finished shooting, and it was New Year's party, right before, you know, a couple of months before we launched, and I was sitting there with Jonathan Silver, who plays Arthur in the show, and we were discussing how amazing would it be if we approached Geek and Sundry and got their attention and laughter and this would be great, ha 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 ha, you know, let's dream. So to fast forward, and I forgot when we get the initial email from them, but basically they got wind of us through an article that was written about us in LA Weekly.
Okay.
So that's kind of what pinged their attention, watched it, liked it, got in contact with us. My reception of the email was probably a lot more boring than the rest of them, but I woke up, read the email, went, and then went right back to bed.
Just another early morning for Julian Stamboulieh.
Woke up, brushed all the scotch bottles off of me.
Oh, Phil Moore. Right, no, that's nice. It's a good callback. I like that.
It was very exciting. It's so exciting I fainted. Back to sleep.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right. Let's throw this around the room. Scott, how did you take that?
I was also very excited. It was really cool to. I mean, I haven't been able to meet a number. I haven't been able to meet every single person involved with Geek and Sundry. Obviously, we live in different countries and on different sides of the continent, no less. So it's far. But I have been able to meet some of the members of the team, and it's been super cool to do so. But at that time, the notion that someone like me, who is a professional actor working out of Montreal with however many years of experience I have, however many years of experience my resume says I have, being sort of showcased on a channel that also has, shows written and created by Will Wheaton and Felicia Day is pretty mind-blowing to me, right? Because those two people are iconic for a subculture that I identify with.
Sure.
And sort of in that way, I guess my initial response was like, "Wow, I guess I'm iconic now," which is not true, but that's okay. That's fine. That's not bad. But yeah, that was pretty exciting. It also really humanized a lot of the sort of like celebrity status that we have going around.
Sure.
Which is really cool. I bumped into a wonderful guy at Gen Con called Lawrence, but this past year when we were there, there were 100,000 people there. I might be exaggerating slightly. There were a lot of people at Gen Con, and I was just walking down a hallway filled with people, and somebody pointed at me and said, "Oh, it's that guy from that thing." I assumed he thought I was Tobey Maguire or something, but like I took it and I ran with it, and we took a photo and we were chatting, and the notion that anybody can become somebody who's sort of like recognized in that way is really cool. And I like the idea that something I've done has affected somebody else's life in the way that he might have done something that's affected my life that I just might not know about. I think that's really cool.
No, that is cool.
I mean, I think Julian and Scott have said all that need to be said on that. Obviously, it's been really thrilling to work with Geek and Sundry. It's very validating for me as a producer. As Julian has said, we work with very small budgets in the world of web series. This isn't television. This is not feature films in Hollywood, and so it's hard. We struggle a lot to do large production value work on minimum size budgets, and to receive word one summer morning in Montreal via email that Geek and Sundry is interested in talking to me and to us about our show. It was really, really validating. I think really kind of to throw it back to the answer I was giving you to the last question, like channels like Geek and Sundry, channels like that on YouTube can act as that kind of filter. You know what I mean? It's still a free platform for the audience to come and watch your videos. But any old person can just go and start their own YouTube channel, which is what we did initially. Can go start their own YouTube channel and put whatever videos they want on YouTube. But Geek and Sundry has 1.3 or whatever million subscribers. That's not something that anyone can just go get access to. So that kind of is very validating. It kind of makes makes me feel like I'm a professional, even though I'm not. But no, but yeah, I guess that's really the best part of it for me. Is it's very validating that people who, like Scott was saying, we admire and respect, really can validate our work that way. And I just want to say that I'm really proud of myself that I was able to get that answer out while really fighting against, the picture of people mistaking Scott Humphrey for Tobey Maguire and then chasing after him because the Spider-Man movies were so bad. And of course, Scott is running away from them in dance because he's been afflicted by that disease.
Right, by that disease.
Dance.
Well, I didn't ask them why they were beating me with sticks, but that's...
That's because of Spider-Man 3.
Oh boy.
And may I just add, if you look at Scott's screen right now at the bottom left-hand side, look how beautiful he looks in that picture of himself. His icon there. Wow. He's like so.
I'm trying to do the face and it's not working. I think
Oh no, you're dashing, handsome.
It's not blue steel, but
a hint of danger. Look at that face. Look at that face.
Here's mine.
That is your
See,
profile.
but there's something to be said about doing a little bit of the MS Paint to make a representation of yourself.
Killer.
See,
Julian is and I'm not even over-exaggerating here, bar none, the greatest stick figure artist on the face of this earth. Nay, who has ever lived.
Wow.
See, those are some quality glasses that you put on your character. I gotta say.
I think I got the shading right, yeah.
Perfect.
No, and to go back to what you were saying, Benjamin, there is definitely a difference between creating content and creating good quality content that has meaning for people, to make a connection, to either expand somebody's thought on a particular subject that they're interested in or a particular hobby that they're a part of, and then there's stuff that is not worth your time and you end up flipping past it and looking for that quality content that you connect with. And that's definitely what you guys put together. You put together something that does connect, that does, while it might reach a smaller community of people, that niche of people are a tighter knit community, and they spread the word through Facebook, through whatever social means or face to face or whatever, and that's a good thing.
The LARPing community definitely spreads the word. They are the best at spreading the word.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. What would you say was the biggest hurdle that you guys had to overcome in making the series?
I don't know, mine was writing the script. But
Solution? Somebody else.
Here you go.
Hiring out is always an option.
Hey.
It's funny because season 1, I will say, actually went incredibly smoothly.
Yeah.
Season 1 went very, very well, and I knew at the time that is definitely not the norm, and I knew that Karma was going to come back and kick our ass for season 2. Season 2 was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Hands down. I wish I could say what the one difficulty of season 2 was, but it has been a very trying period. That being said, I am incredibly proud of where it is right now. I'm very, very. I mean, I don't know if we're going to be talking about season 2 in a bit or whatever, but I just want to say I'm incredibly excited to finally have that out to people, because it's been a labor of love for everyone involved in this project. In the works for a long time now. So.
Okay, since we're at this point, why don't we just have you guys do a brief, let's do a rundown. What is LARPs the series about, and the characters, the main characters in it?
So, you got that.
Yeah. Scott, take it away.
Yeah, great, awesome. LARPs is a fictional web series about a group of friends that live-action roleplay together, essentially. But the sort of the fun part about it is that we don't just follow them outside of their hobby. We don't just follow the story of them in-game. We follow both. So we get to see what happens when something in the game affects their lives outside of the game, or vice versa. This group of friends, there's one GM, Evan, and then there are 4 players in the first season, 5 in the second season. There are so Evan's younger sister, Brittany, and then his friend Arthur, and Arthur's brother Will, and a newcomer to the group, Shane. And then the players and the GM all represent different aspects, different player styles, right? Different things that different players want to do when they LARP or when they game.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Boom.
How did I do?
You wrapped that up very well.
I tie everything in bows. That's
What I want to
for a
say
living.
is it definitely shows that some of you have some gaming background, because it's a fine line, but especially when it comes to anything gaming, and LARP it's easy to ridicule
Yeah.
for people who've never done it and people who've never seen it. And it's a fine line to be able to do humor on it without actually making fun of those who do it. And you guys, I think, have that line down perfect. Where you can have the humor, but it's obvious that you're not saying, well, these LARPers are idiots, let's make fun of them.
Perfect.
I think that we can thankfully attribute to the fact that we got John Verrill to write the series. That was the reason that I didn't want to write the series. It's not because I was lazy. I was getting ready to do it. It's just that I eventually realized that I cannot properly represent that culture as someone who doesn't know anything about it. I mean, I can research it, but I don't have the experience. I don't really truly know what it feels like. So John was able to kind of, because he's a writer and because he was an improv artist as well, he was able to ride that line very, very nicely. And it's funny because we've been thanked before, and it means a lot to us. We've been thanked before by people within the community about thanking us for properly representing finally their culture and giving them a piece of media that they can feel proud to show others as a proper representation. For me, that's not what the point of the show is. For me, that was obvious. I think it's an obvious step to properly represent something and to treat it with respect. So for me, I'm surprised that it has not been properly shown yet with respect, because so many other things has, and it's actually, you have to kind of step out of your way to make fun of something, and I'm just shocked that there hasn't been this yet, to be honest.
I couldn't agree with Julian more. I mean, we wanted to make a show that, I mean, listen, of course, obviously we do have a niche primary audience, for sure, in the LARPing community and in the gaming community by extension, but we wanted to make a show that potentially could be funny to anyone. But that doesn't mean everyone except LARPers. We wanted people who LARP to be able to love and enjoy the show and hopefully relate to the show. And we also wanted people, you know, outside of the LARPing community, maybe even people who had never even heard of LARPing before, to also be able to enjoy it. You know, it was actually, I got to say, an interesting balance and one that I loved being a part of, in the sense that you had John on one side writing the scripts, really trying to make sure that the LARPing community could relate to our show, and I think you had Julian and I on the other side, loving the work that he was doing and being very much in support of it, but also kind of giving our 2 cents on, like, okay, let's not make the show inaccessible to people who don't LARP. So, like, let's not use too much terminology that people wouldn't understand, or let's not use too many inside LARPing jokes that people wouldn't understand. But it's still nice to throw those little things in as Easter eggs.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and I gotta say, I really agree with what Julian's saying also about how it's almost strange that it's not the norm. It's like, you know, I don't know. I was actually just running on the treadmill at the gym the other day, and I got off, and I grabbed the spray, and I sprayed it down, and I wiped down my sweat off of the thing, like off of the treadmill with the paper towel. And one of the trainers comes by, and he goes, "Thanks, man." And I was like, "Well, you're welcome, but like you're supposed to wipe your sweat off of a machine when you leave it. You shouldn't be thanking me for doing that. You should be calling out the people who aren't wiping the sweat off of their machine." You know what I mean? And it's the exact same thing. It's like, okay, you know what? Just, you know, in the past several questions that you asked us, I was basically saying, like, you know, there are some videos that straight up shouldn't be on YouTube, and I don't want to give examples because I don't want to like hurt anybody's feelings, but you know, fuck that. I will straight up call out videos that insult people and hurt people's feelings. Like any group of people. If there's a video on YouTube that's like, haha, look at this person doing, I don't know, doing this thing. Look how much of a loser they look like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That shouldn't exist. That shouldn't be there. It's like it's a juvenile, like high school kind of mentality thing to do, and so yeah, I love that we are thanked for that, and I really appreciate getting the thanks, like Julian said. But it's almost like, you know, we consider it normal, and we see that anything else, like Julian said very, very well, is almost going out of your way to make fun of someone. You know?
Well, and I'll say one of the things is I think some of the stuff that's out there that kind of goes towards more the mocking, I don't think that a lot of it's intentional. I think they go, what you guys avoid is you don't have these overblown caricatures of these, you know, these geeky people playing the game. So they're not like, I mean, you're believable people playing a game. You're not the, you know, it's not the point where some things where every character is just such a character of that annoying geek where no one's likable.
Yeah.
And, I mean, there's like nothing redeeming about the people because they're rude and they're crass and they're, you know, it's just that they take everything that somebody thinks someone who would play these games is without actually knowing who these people are, and they just think, well, I knew that nerdy guy in high school, so he's probably doing stuff like this.
Yeah.
And they do all that, you know, he doesn't know how to talk to people and he can't date a girl, and like, you know, that's not true because I know plenty of gamers and LARPers who have kids, and somehow there had to have been a girl involved at some point.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and you guys avoid that you know, trope, I guess, for lack of a better term. So you've made people who are believable.
And I think that, you know, the way that you do that very smartly is it's not about the LARP. It's about the life and the lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? You're not just seeing one aspect of them. You get to meet and understand these characters and who they are and delve into that and not just stay at the surface level. There's depth to it in the portrayal. So
I think
they're real people.
yeah.
I think the most sort of dangerous stereotype, like misconception that's been put out in mainstream media over the last number of years, yeah, the most dangerous one is that gamers can't distinguish between fantasy and reality, right? Like we've all heard of. I mean, there was an episode of you know, one of those like true crime shows not too long ago. I can't remember which one, which revolved around a man who sacrificed somebody to the devil because he played D&D. Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is produced within the last 3 years, like, and the idea that can still be real today. You know, I met somebody at Gen Con as well who was doing their master's thesis on a similar subject. Their professor didn't want to let them interview gamers because they felt that the gamers may become unhinged. Like, now, again, right? Like, I mean, this is one person's opinion. I understand that, but I think that's probably the most dangerous misconception that's been put out there about a really broad culture, a really broad hundreds of subcultures. Anyway. And that's, I think, I mean, speaking as not the writer or one of the producers on the show, that's something that I think we've aimed to try to rectify with the show. Because, yeah, people play games, and then they stop playing games, and they go back to their lives, and it can be both. It can be both.
Yeah.
And there's also that stereotype of the social outcast.
Yes, for
And
sure.
There's actually a great meme going around right now. It's a picture of the old D&D red box. And it says, "Nerdiest game ever made. Requires friends to play."
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
So
true. And
it's like, you can't be a gamer and not have friends.
Absolutely.
it's very true. Very true.
You know, and it's funny because, yeah, in a certain sense, there are certain films or TV shows or web series or whatever that do portray like, oh, all geeks are like, I don't know, like social, like people who cannot interact socially with anyone. You know what I mean? No, not all geeks are like that. I'm sure there are geeks who are like that.
Yeah.
But that's not because they're geeks. That's because there are human beings who are like that.
Yes.
Every group of every type of person in the world. That has nothing to do with them being a geek or being a gamer or being a role player. That's just because some human beings are like that. And there's also nothing wrong with being like that. That's just the way some people are. But
Yep.
it's not. It has nothing to do with because you're a geek or because you're a gamer or because you like role playing, you're like a social reject or something. That has nothing. It doesn't even make sense when you really say it out loud and you really think of it. It doesn't even make sense. You know?
Yeah.
That's why I love pointing out to people is like, Vin Diesel played D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, one of the tattoos that his character in Triple X has, it's the tattoo of a name of a D&D character he had.
Awesome.
So
That's cool. I love that.
I don't think anyone would call him socially awkward.
No,
He's done very well for himself.
One guy did, but he's dead now.
There it is.
I do have one story that I wanted to share with you guys in the whole, it's keeping with the theme here. My now ex-wife and I met while we were playing this Vampire the Mind's Eye Theater White Wolf LARP, and I asked her out on a date, and we had that moment of, is this in game? Is this out of game? And then she agreed to it, and she told somebody later that, I think his name is Lyle. She didn't know my actual name. She knew me as the character, but had talked to me as a normal person. So we actually, it's one of those things where at some point in time, we're going to have to tell our son that, yes, your mother and I met while we were pretending to be vampires, and I asked her on a date, and she didn't know my name at all. So it's one of those weird things that I just wanted to share with you. So, I mean...
It's not the first time. I know one of our actors in season 2 named Mark Camacho, who's a big name here in Montreal. He was in X-Men. He was in a few movies.
Okay.
He met his wife in a Dungeons and Dragons game that he was GMing.
Nice.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
you hear about it a lot.
Well, that's good.
That's very good. He was DMing the group, so he was just like, and you turn a corner and you go on a date with me.
And then we're married, so muzzle up.
I'll give you 100 XP if you date me. Yeah. The worst pickup line ever.
This is the first time that...
Or the best.
That's it. That's it.
Bad one.
This is the first time that I've... Oh, sorry.
Maybe you get slightly more experience in killing a goblin. That's not really...
What were you going to say, Scott?
No, just that it's the first time I've heard of a story which I'm assuming has a sequel in which she was trying to sneak a peek at your character sheet to find your, the player name on it. Do you know what I mean? She's like, yes, tell me more. Lyle, and then trying to sneak a peek at it is great. It's really funny.
Yeah, I can't even remember how that went. I think she told me this. She told me this story, and then I basically reintroduced myself.
Looked at you expectantly, and then
Yeah.
I hope she brought it up before you guys got married.
Yes, absolutely.
The wedding didn't help much at all because she was like waiting for the priest to say your name, and he was like, "Do you take this man to be your husband?" Like, oh, crap!
Damn it! I really thought that would work. That's funny, actually. That's really funny.
It's it's a weird thing, and we haven't had to mention that to our son yet, and I'm okay with that because that's awkward in and of itself, but a funny story nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Getting back on track here, and speaking of the future, what's coming up? What's the future of LARPs the series? What are we going to see next?
Ooh.
Ben, why don't you take that one?
Oh boy. When we last left our adventurers, no.
God, that was the end.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Season 2 definitely picks up where Season 1 left off. We're going to see, a continuation of the storylines that were kind of left on an unknown note at the end of Season 1, but we'll also be introduced to some interesting new storylines as well. One of the biggest, and I'll use the quotation marks here, criticisms we got in Season 1 was that the episodes were far too short, which I actually take as a large compliment because just people want more of them. So whereas the episodes were kind of between 3 and 7 minutes long in Season 1, they will be ranging between, about 11 to 13 minutes in Season 2, which is pretty cool. We're still going to be opening with kind of like a prologue episode, so that one will still be short, like a minute and a half to 2 minutes, but that's just like the prologue for the season. The actual full episodes are going to be really long. We also added a new actress to the core cast, to like Evan's LARPing group. Her name is Amber Goldfarb, and she plays a character named Kat. And whereas we had 3 supporting characters in Season 1, in Season 2 we have 13. So a much larger cast, to say the least. I think to say the very least, to put it mildly, the production value of the second season of the show has spiked significantly. We had a lot of help from our Indiegogo backers, of course. We had a lot of help from Geek Sundry. We had several sponsors on the show as well, helping us out. And we were working with a really incredible, really talented team. I mean, just to name, I guess, one example just off the top of my head, because she just tweeted at me. Kat Evancelli is an incredible makeup artist here in Montreal who did the makeup for Season 2. And I think the actors all appreciated not having to do their own makeup like they had to do in Season 1. So, we had a much bigger team, we had a much bigger cast, we had much longer episodes. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be really exciting, and I'm very excited for the internet to see it.
A couple of other things that people, we listened to what people liked and enjoyed about the first season, and like Ben said, we're not only one-upping, we're two-upping everything. And let me tell you, people loved the fight scene in Season 1, Episode 4. There's a fight scene that goes on for about maybe 7 to 10 seconds. The fights in Season 2. We have this man named Sean Beichu. He's a Montreal-based actor and fight choreographer, and he actually does all the choreography for a lot of the Deus Ex games.
Oh, okay.
For like a lot of the takedowns that what's the character's name? Whatever,
Jensen.
the guy. Yeah, that Jensen does. He does a lot of motion capture for the Assassin's Creed games. And we were super excited to get on board, and thankfully he's a giant nerd as well. So he really, really embraced all that, everything we wanted to do with the show. We have got unbelievable music scored for us, all original orchestral music. We recorded a live orchestra to play it. We also have, our composer's name is Michael Schlafman, and we have like a big, more chip tunes, everything's bigger. So we're super, super excited for people to see this. The trailer will be coming out within the month.
Oh, good.
And when people see that, they gonna flip.
Excellent. Now I'm gonna switch over to Scott. Now that season 2, I mean, you've got 13 supporting. What was that like to have that playground essentially just double, quadruple in size as an actor? How did that feel?
Akin to the first time that hey, I learned how to swim in a pool, let's say. I didn't, but like, let's say so. And the first time that you're like, I know how to swim. I'm gonna go swim in the ocean. That's essentially how it felt. Okay, maybe not the ocean, but like a large lake or a river. Anyway, my point is just that season 1 was a really wonderful, intimate experience. We had a relatively intimate like cast and crew, and we shot over 12 days in succession, and everything was done, all at once, kind of. And so for me, that's a sprint as an actor, trying to record an hour's worth of material over 12 days, and trying to situate myself. Where am I in the story? What is this moment to moment? Whereas doing much more content over 6 weeks with a break in the middle, and having the character that I've kind of developed in conjunction with Julian and John and the rest of the cast and everybody, having that character being thrown into situations that are much larger and into action sequences, really, for lack of a better word, it's really exciting. And it's pretty scary, but I'm always up for a challenge, and I love it. And this is what we're doing, right? This is what we want to do,
sure,
with our lives. So I think it's, I guess for me, I was kind of expecting a stepping stone, maybe. You know what I mean? Like a step up, as opposed to the so get on this elevator and we'll like lift you up to the next floor. Get out now. Start parkouring up the side of this building. I don't know. Whatever. That didn't happen, by the way. I did not parkour in this show yet.
Well, he did, but we cut the scene and we're gonna do it with CGI instead.
Awful. It's
what?
awful.
Oh no!
They put me in the spider suit and everything. It was.
And there's the Tobey Maguire callback.
Hey!
All right. Bam.
That's not Tobey Maguire, but
We'll run with it.
Yeah,
that works. All right. Where can people go to see LARPs the series? Hit us with what's the preferred address you want people to go experience?
I mean, you can check out LARPs the series at larpstheseries.com. You can also check us out on Geek and Sundry's, either on their main page or on their YouTube channel. Also, if you just go on YouTube and search LARPs, we're the first thing that pops up. And also, there's lots of behind-the-scenes content from Season 1 that people didn't necessarily hear about, but it's on Geek and Sundry's Facebook. We had a behind-the-scenes episode that went along with every single one of the Season 1 episode launches, which were a lot of fun. So that has some kind of cool stuff, including some of the audition process. We had audition tapes that we showed.
Those are worth watching, I think.
That one is particularly fun because not only do you see people auditioning, but you see people auditioning for roles they didn't end up being cast in.
Oh.
So you see Scott audition for Evan, which is really interesting to think of the show with roles reversed. It's very interesting. Mm-hmm. Anyway, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Vine, all that stuff at just basically LARPs the series. So Facebook LARPs the series.
I want to just butt in there for a quick second and mention that this season along with several other of their shows, Geek and Sundry is trying out this cool new thing, a new platform called Vessel. So the show is actually going to be initially released. Each video each week is going to be initially released on Vessel instead of YouTube. If you want to watch on YouTube, that's no problem. It's each episode is going to be released on YouTube the following week, so just only 7 days later. But if you want to get an early peek at each video, you can check us out on this new platform called Vessel.
Okay, cool. Very cool. And we're going to give you a chance to talk about this again, and then if you guys have links to other things that other projects or other things, we're going to give you a chance to do that as well. We're going to move on to Hello, My Name Is. This is an opportunity for you to talk about a character that you've played, be it in a LARP, a tabletop game, a chance for you to let us know why this particular character that you got a chance to play is so cool. And we got, and this name killed me, and I decided that I want to name a cat this name because it made me laugh so hard. I want to thank Kyle Van Winkle for sharing his character Papadopoulos Butt Dicks with us.
Perfect.
Yes.
That is perfection.
Papadopoulos Butt Dicks. I laughed for a good hour at least when I saw this. And the game system that he was playing this character in was D&D 5th edition. And his write-up about the character didn't surprise me too much. He was intended to be entirely over the top and annoying and named to annoy one person in general. I kind of got that feeling. Instead, he ended up being totally upstanding and righteous dude who hates his name but still uses it because it's how he initially got noticed, and that's what folks remember him as, because branding is everything, kids. Never forget.
It's true.
That Papadopoulos is a real righteous dude, man. He's so good. Kyle, we should be friends. If you're watching, Kyle Van Winkle, we should be friends, man.
Absolutely. And to thank Kyle for sharing Papadopoulos Butt Dicks with us, we sent him a PDF certificate from the show thanking him for sharing his character with us that he can print out and is suitable for framing. So if you go to galacticnetcasts.com and find Adventure Party in the podcast list, you can click on to an image that we have on just the right-hand side that says, "Hello, my name is." There's a short form. Yes, I do ask for your email address, but like Kyle found out, I don't spam you. I don't have time for that, and I don't want to deal with it. I work in the web industry in my day-to-day life, and I hate people that do that. So I'm not that guy. The only thing that I did is, like I did for Kyle, is we create a certificate thanking Kyle for taking the time to share that information with us, and just as a thank you, send that back to him. And if he wants to put it in a frame or pin it up on his wall, he can, or he can put it in his trash if he wanted to in his email. I'd be a little sad, but you know, it is what it is. I just wanted to thank you, Kyle, for taking the time to share Papadopoulos Butt Dicks with us. I'm sorry, every time I say it I laugh. It's my inner 5-year-old clawing out.
Don't worry, I just want to let you know that every time I put something in my trash, I just remember that one man's trash is another man's treasure. So I really feel like I'm slowly building someone else's hoard.
It's like you're a dragon, right?
Yeah, that's the
You've
one.
got this huge hoard of amazing treasure, of strange and wonderful things.
Unfortunately, I'm not Schmaug. I'm Dudley.
Nice. Nice reference.
I do want to thank everyone for joining us at the Adventure Party. You can go to galacticnetcasts.com, like I mentioned before. You can find all of our different social media outlets. YouTube channel where the show is live and uncut. Typically, the audio version has a little bit of editing, but that's more for time and try to get rid of my uhs and ums a little bit because I did it again. I'm self-conscious about it, so I try to clean that up a little bit.
You can also cut Scott out as a guest. Just cut him out entirely.
I don't think
absolutely
I contributed very much,
not.
so it's okay.
No. Scott stays. I'm sorry. Executive decision. Scott
Thank
stays.
you. It means so much to me.
If you're using iTunes or Stitcher, just take a moment to give us a little review and let us know what you think. Stitcher, it's thumbs up, thumbs down. iTunes has got the star system. Let us know what you think. Give us an appropriate rating and or inappropriate rating, whatever. And just give us a little note. What do you like? What do you like to see more of? We'd love to hear it. Your positive or negative review can help make the Adventure Party a better show. And you can leave us feedback by emailing galacticnetcasts@gmail.com, or you can call 805 or text. Let me qualify that. You can call or text 805-328-3966, 805-328-3966, and you can leave us a message, be it voice or text, or, and this is even more simple, you can go to galacticnetcasts.com, and there is a link that lives on the left side of the screen that says leave us a message. And if you click that and you have a microphone attached to your computer, you can just leave us a message right through the computer. This WordPress plugin will just shoot us an email with the MP3 attached, and boom, we have it.
That's cool.
Pretty cool.
It's a great way to connect with everybody, and we definitely want to hear back from folks and know what's on their mind. So I want to thank Julian. I want to get your name right. I'm going to give it another shot here. Stamboulieh.
Stamboulieh,
damn it.
Stamboulieh.
At least I didn't go Julian Stamboulieh. I gave it an honest shot. And Scott Humphrey and Benjamin Warner. Where can folks find out more about? I want to hear the link to LARPs, the series again, and if there's any additional things that you would like to plug, please do.
Go to
oh boy.
Go to larpstheseries.com or go to facebook.com/larpstheseries or twitter.com/larpstheseries, or please go to geekandsundry.com or youtube.com/geekandsundry. What other social media sites do we have? We're on Instagram also, larpstheseries. My Twitter handle is Ben the Canadian. Scott, what's yours?
@Humphrey1212. That's me, baby.
Nice.
Yeah.
Is that everyone?
Oh wait, yeah, no, I didn't say hi. J Stamboulieh or Strumbo. You want to write? I mean,
just whatever I said, disregard that and listen to what Julian said, because he knows how to pronounce his own last name, whereas I obviously don't have a clue. My horrible American tongue butchered the hell out of it.
I once saw somebody try to pronounce Julian's last name and his glass eye popped out.
What year is it? What? Okay. Who has glass eyes? I love it.
That sounds like a tremendous effort was put into getting it right.
Well, it kind of looks like.
I'm picturing some like hoity-toity British, flop or anything, Pop.
And right out.
What did you say your name was? Julian Stamboulieh.
Okay, if you guys are not watching the video version of this, you need to for this portion alone. It is well worth it.
oh my.
Can you tell we're still a little exhausted from filming season 2?
I tell there's a little bit of punchiness in the room. I can sense that. I can sense that. One last thing before we go. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I really appreciate that. One thing before we go is I forgot to mention it earlier. Hey, we're talking with Andy Weir. the guy that wrote the book The Martian. He spoke to us before, and he's going to come back on the Sci-Fi Geeks Club to talk with us again the day before the American premiere of The Martian.
Ooh.
So, he's a wonderful guy. If you guys have the time, go back into the archives of the Sci-Fi Geeks Club and find that particular episode. It's episode 21 of the Sci-Fi Geeks Club. Great guy, wonderful talking to him, and he was mentioning that the movie was being made at the time, and now he's going to talk to us again, and we're really excited. So if you go to patreon.com/galacticnetcasts, also there's a link on our site, you have an opportunity to, if you donate to the cause, to help us kind of defray some of our costs for hosting, and we're looking to upgrade our actual audio distribution to SoundCloud Pro. We've been using archive.org, but they do throttle the content. So we're concerned that maybe not everybody that wants to hear it gets to hear it the way they want to during the times that they want to. So we're looking to upgrade that.
I'm going on record saying that if you donate $20,000 to this podcast, I will go up at your front door and give you a hug.
There you go. Benjamin has now committed that to the internets. That is a real thing now. And thank you for that, Benjamin.
Oh boy.
If you donate even $1, whatever you're good with, we're good with too. Any donation that you put in, we're going to have a raffle, and you will be able to join us on our panel and have an opportunity to talk to Andy Weir. So think it over. Donate to us on Patreon. Again, that's patreon.com/galacticnetcast to go directly to the page. And if you donate, you get your name in the hat, and you could have an opportunity to ask questions of Andy Weir directly. So he's a great guy. You'll have a great time. So think about it, and if that's for you, feel free to donate, and you can get on board. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining us. What time is it in Montreal right now?
It's a little past midnight.
Yeah, it's time for me to let you guys go. I apologize for this going so long, but we're having a great time talking to you, and I didn't want to cut anything short here. So thank you so much for staying up late to talk with us about LARPs, the series.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been a lot of fun.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time.
We had a great time. And thank you, Kathy Vincelli, for watching.
And I want to thank everybody who's listening for joining us at the Adventure Party. May your characters never die and your adventures always be epic. Thank you and good night.